All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on your Tuesday morning. Only one accident to report. That's at I-20 eastbound between 378 and Bush River Road. Today, still more chances for afternoon thunderstorms with a high of 84. Tomorrow, about the same with a high of 86. It's currently 77 degrees here in downtown Columbia. That's traffic and weather on your Tuesday here in the game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on the game. Inching closer to football. 2 days away from the NFL Hall of Fame game with your Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. 3 days away from camp starting on Friday. Really, like Thursday's kind of the real football extravaganza because we're going to get the Beamer pre-camp presser. We'll hear from, I think, all the assistants, or most of the assistants, right?
Yeah. I mean, the way the schedule works is like it's Beamer, all the assistants, offense, defense. I don't know which one comes first, but it's either offense or off. Like one side of the football will go for 30 minutes, and special teams will get mixed in there too. And then the rest of the team from a defensive or offensive standpoint, whatever side the ball hasn't gone yet, they'll go next. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy Thursday, and then Friday is the first day of preseason camp, and man, it'll be everything will be dialed up to 100 that morning, I'm sure, at the facility.
Now, are you expecting to see anything more than stretching?
So, all right, let's go on the schedule. So, I believe it's 3 periods to start the camp. So, okay. Yeah, we're there Friday, August 7th. Practice starts at 9:25. Periods 1 through 3 are going to be open. Well, I think we'll get a little. We'll see. We'll see more than stretching.
Okay.
Right, because I think if I'm remembering correctly, the spring they would be stretching, and then the clock would start on the periods, and they'd go outside and they do a little bit of work. So we'll see them do 15 minutes of individual stuff. If they're kind of sticking with the same structure they did in the spring, they're really going to be honing in on doing fundamentals and all that stuff. So I'm imagining we're going to see that. Saturday, I'm actually not going to be there on Saturday because Caroline and I, we have a marriage prep course.
Okay.
That we booked. It was either do it this upcoming Saturday or do it during the bye week. And I told Caroline, no chance we are doing it during the bye week. So let's just get it out of the way on a random Saturday during August.
That's smart.
It's gonna be from 8:30 to 5 p.m. So it's
it's like an all day thing.
Yeah, all day.
So it's like a class counseling.
So
what is it?
It's like a course. It's like a class you have to take in order, I think, to get married through the church that we're getting married.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah,
what kind of church is it?
It's a Catholic church.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, everything's going well.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not like we need counseling, because
right.
It's literally required in order to get married at this church.
Okay, I see. So
yeah, I won't be there on Saturday, but periods 1 through 5 on Saturday sounds pretty good. And then we get one more, periods 1 through 5 on August 16th. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we're really going to see. But, of course, we'll hear plenty from inside the building, I'm sure, and we'll have that all on Gamecock Central. And, of course, we'll talk about it here on 107.5.
Yeah, and I don't know, if you see a drill being done on Friday, just be weary of what the backlash of that could be, as we learned back in spring practice.
God, I know. It's you know what, though? It's going to be fine. So, Yeah, it'll be all good.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, that's coming up on Friday, and again, we'll have plenty of sound from Thursday and all that kind of stuff to get us set for camp getting rolling on Friday morning. We're 32 days away from kickoff between South Carolina and Kent State coming up on September the 5th, and 32 days brings us to the number 32, which was the total receptions for Vendravius Jacobs last year, which led the team as far as total receptions go. Nick Harbor was 2 behind him at 30, though Harbor had more yards and more touchdowns. And I think it's kind of interesting because you see that dynamic a lot. Sometimes the leading receiver won't always have the most total receptions. It makes a lot of sense with how involved Vendravius Jacobs was in the offense a year ago. As we go into this year, again, with a new offensive coordinator that's taking over the reins in Kendall Browse, who do we think is going to be the leading receiver in terms of receptions on this team this year?
You like to think it's going to be Nick. I kind of keep going back to like Nitro Tuggle. I think he's going to play a big part in this offense. You look at last year at Purdue, he had 34 catches, so that's already more than what Dre had at South Carolina before transferring to Miami. So yeah, I think Nitro. I think he's gonna have a similar year to last year. Like I think he's probably about a 500-yard receiver again, maybe a little bit more. But I think he could end up getting the same amount of catches. Because, look, I think, like Nick, I think in my opinion, I think he's probably your go-to target, wide receiver 1. Like, I could totally see him. And honestly, maybe it's all wrong. Maybe he's going to just have a 1,000-yard season. And if he's going to have a 1,000-yard season, well, he's probably going to end up leading the team in catches. So, but if it's not him, I kind of like that number 2 option of, like, a Nitro Tuggle. Shoot. I feel like we all sleep on Mazio Bennett, man. I feel like he has not gotten talked about really at all. And he's someone that, go back to the spring, listen to Mike Furry and Shane Beamer. Like, those guys were raving about the spring he had, especially Furry. So I'm really interested to see if Mazio can have a bounce-back year because we saw what he did as a freshman. He was very good. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he had 30 catches as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pull it up real quick, but I'm pretty positive he had 30 catches as a freshman. So that's a guy that, like, I could totally see having a bounce-back year.
Yeah, and he was kind of one of the bigger stories that we didn't talk about as much on offense a year ago because of how much he kind of disappeared, right, into the background of what was happening on offense to younger guys. And, Brian Rowe Jr. and Donovan Murph, seemingly passed him by. And I will say, I think it says something, the fact that he didn't transfer. Right, because a lot of times you see a guy that gets passed by younger guys in the depth chart. Okay, well I'm not welcome to. I'm not wanted here anymore. Let me go somewhere else. Mazio Bennett decided to stick around. There's got to be some kind of belief in him or this coaching staff that he can play a bigger role on this offense this year. And maybe it was the way that Mike Shule looked at him and his skill set and how he could use him. Like, well, we don't know, and we're not going to be privy to those conversations. But there's some kind of belief that Mazio Bennett can do something this year. Or I don't think he would have stuck around.
No, I don't think so either. By the way, yes, he did have 30 catches his freshman year for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, look, the thing is with Nick, especially, like we know he can run the verticals, right? It's about can he get involved in doing the other things like on the slants and the crossing routes and whatnot. If he can become more than just the deep ball threat, man, he's going to be really good this year. And he was very good last year, but a lot of those catches he had went for like 40-plus yards. So, yeah, if he can figure it out from that standpoint, man, he's easily going to be the top target. But there's going to have to be other guys in this offense that you rely on. And truthfully, I don't know how much of it is going to be from the tight end position, right? I think Brady Hunt's capable of being that guy, but truly, I mean, we just don't know what they're getting out of tight end offensive production because I think it's going to be a lot more hand in the dirt, blocking, catch some occasional passes here and there. I don't know for sure on that. But I feel like you're going to have to see other receivers in the mix in this offense. And I think Mazio, I think Tuggle, I think those guys make sense. But then you also have, like, all these guys that were freshmen last year that are back now as sophomores, like Donovan Murph. What's he going to do? Shoot. We haven't even talked about Jaden Sellers.
Right.
Like, one of the top playmakers in this offense last year. Like, and I think you feel good about what they have in the receiver room. Like, I think there's – so we're talking about who's going to have more catches or who's going to lead the team in catches. Like
right.
It's it's probably Nick, right? I mean, what do you think?
Well, like you said, Nick is your home run guy, right? Now, how much has he developed this offseason in terms of running more routes in kind of the short to intermediate range? We don't know, because that's where a lot of receptions are going to come from, right? So if he is a completely well-rounded wide receiver, then no reason to think that he can't go out there and be a leading receiver in both receptions and total yards. I think he'll lead the team in yards regardless, but I think of like a guy getting the ball in his hands more, I would probably go with Jaden Sellers. Again, we saw him just come on so much as last year went along. Obviously, great rapport with Norris because they played together for so long. And, he's a guy that can do a variety of things with the short game and stuff like that would probably be pretty welcome in the Kendall Browse offense. Also, and we're just going off of the hype we've heard so far this offseason, about DJ Black. Right?
Yeah.
That's a guy that keeps getting buzz. Again, we've not been able to put our eyes on him specifically because we didn't have a spring game. We haven't seen him play a game here in a Carolina uniform, but there's a reason why he's getting a lot of buzz. And I don't know, you probably got to throw him in that mix of like, hey, maybe this guy could be emerge as that guy that's a consistent target for Sellers throughout the season.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, you look at what DJ did last year, 22 catches, 273 yards. Sellers also had 22 catches, but he actually had the same amount of receiving yards as Mazio has, a freshman, ironically enough. So, yeah, look, I think we just listed off like 5 or 6 different names. They have a lot of options in this offense, and that's not even including some of the other guys that are going to be sophomores this year. Like, what about like Malik Clark, Gidron, Lex Cyrus, like guys like that really weren't major contributors last year, but do they take that next step? Are they going to get more involved in this offense? Like I don't think it's even a bad problem to have this many receivers that are uber talented. Like they have a very under the radar kind of group, and quite frankly, look, it gives Lenoris what he needs, more options to throw to in this offense. Like, yeah, he had it pretty good with Nick and Dre and Jaden last year, but like, if all these guys, and not everyone's going to get equal targets, right? There's only one football to go around. Some guys are going to get more, catches than others. It's really just about like who steps up and who takes control there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's easy to say that this wide receiver group is one of the most exciting things about this team going into this year, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, totally. I would agree.
So we'll see who ends up emerging as leading receiver, Harbor, Sellers. Maybe it is DJ Black. Maybe it's somebody we're not even thinking of right now that burst onto the scene as the season goes along. But we'll certainly be excited to see how that unfolds coming up this season. Back to the main point of Dre Jacobs, who, again, was leading receiver a year ago in terms of total receptions. Think about this. He could have been coming in here in week number 1, had the game with Miami State on the schedule, because, again, he's now down there with the Hurricanes. How would he have been received coming back? Because I don't think, it didn't seem like it was, bad blood necessarily when he left. Not like a Juice Wells.
I was about
type
to say,
of thing.
definitely does not scream like Juice Wells situation here. And look, does he owe South Carolina anything? No. Like, these guys can do whatever they want, right? It's their decision. They're doing what's best for their careers. And shoot, after a 4-8 season, yeah, Miami is 100% a upward move in his career. If he wants to get to the next level, you could do it at South Carolina. But I think let's be honest with ourselves, he's putting himself in a better situation going to Miami, a team that was just literally competing for a national championship back in January. So, yeah, he's doing what's best for him. I don't know. I think the reception would have been, there would be boos, of course, but I don't think it would have been like when Juice returned here with Ole Miss 2 years ago. It was boos directed at him. Maybe some people would boo him directly, but I don't think it would have been like what happened with Juice.
Well, there was a lot more there with Juice, and the way that he left, and the way he went about his final season, and maybe he was not as injured as he was led on to be, and all that kind of stuff. Funny enough, speaking of Juice Wells, I learned yesterday that he is currently an Atlanta Falcon, trying to make the 53-man roster.
Okay.
I was listening to a radio show back in Atlanta, and they were talking about how he had some good catches at camp. So far, so he's he got cut by the Giants last year, so trying to make his first official NFL roster.
By the way, Bijan Robinson, how about that contract extension?
Finally signed it.
3 years, $75 million. Highest paid running back.
Hey, he plays like it, man.
Yeah.
He's been sitting out the first couple days of camp, trying to get that done. So Yeah, they're still figuring out the quarterback situation, but at least you got Bijan back.
Is that hair that he has real? The like the genie looking braid.
I guess I've never questioned it. It is an interesting hairstyle, but I'm assuming it's real.
That must be uncomfortable.
Yeah, how do you like under the helmet? Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe it's what makes him so good. I don't know.
Maybe he's got that magic touch.
By the way, Stan Drayton recruited him to Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Ties it all back to South Carolina.
Love it.
Oh, what are South Carolina's chances of making the college football playoff? And at what point would we believe they have a chance? We'll discuss that on the other side. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri on your Tuesday on the game.
At AAA Heating and Air, home comfort is their top priority. Give them a call today at 803-677-1500 to schedule a seasonal maintenance appointment. Let AAA Heating and Air's qualified technicians put your mind at ease with a thorough inspection and cleaning of your heating and cooling system. Join their popular AAA Comfort Club to take advantage of special extras such as flexible visits, added discounts, as well as priority scheduling and so much more. AAA Heating and Air also offers indoor air quality products that work with your HVAC system to improve your home's air quality. Clean the air eliminates common household odors, removes allergens, pollutants, and can even improve sleep and reduce the spread of some viruses that are out there. So go to callAAAtoday.com for more info. Again, call3astoday.com. Tell them Jack from 107.5 The Game sent you on over.
What are my chances?
Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of a million.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Veltri, along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. So you're telling me there's a chance. Maybe not 1 in a million. That's a little bit too far out. But, according to Heather Dinich and ESPN Analytics, there's a chance South Carolina could be a college football playoff team this upcoming year. She put out her list yesterday of 31 teams that have a chance to make the college football playoff. They got in at the very end. They were team 30, only one ahead of Virginia Tech. But per ESPN Analytics, 10.8% to make the playoff, 0.4% to win the national title. But still, Jack, we're being given a chance.
I'm sure South Carolina fans will be happy to know that. Guess who comes in at 29? Clemson. Clemson is 1 spot ahead of South Carolina. So that makes this list automatically bad, automatically terrible.
That just means like a couple years ago, we're going to be playing for all the marbles in late November. That's all.
Hey, look, if the game has that much hype going into it and that much at stake, that's what you want every year. Because that was a great football game 2 years ago, man. That was an awesome game for sure for South Carolina and a great game in general. But, yeah, look, there's always a chance, right? You head into the season, always have a chance. And like Beamer said at Media Days in Tampa the other week, this is the same. A lot of the same players from last year are still here, right? So, and last year we were talking about this team, like potential college football playoff team. Everyone was dark horse to make the playoff after barely missing it the year before. Well, all those guys are pretty much back again this year, minus a few players. And you've upgraded the roster, it seems like, in a lot of different areas. So, yeah, I think there should be some level of optimism that they can make it, but they're coming off the 4-8 season. So it's a little tough to project how this team's going to do. I think somewhere in the middle just feels right, of like not having another terrible season, but I don't know about college football playoff. It could happen, but a lot of things have to go right for this team, and they really have to win a lot of the tough games on their schedule to get there.
Of course, they were in the mix and just on the outside looking in 2 years ago, which I'll be glad when we can stop referencing that season, right? I hope this year is successful enough to where 2024 just becomes another year where we don't have to keep going back to the well of, hey, remember, they were in the playoff bubble a couple years ago. We have said that so many times this offseason. But again, it's the last point of reference from a positive standpoint we have for this team. But going back to that time where, again, they were 3-3 and went on the 6-game winning streak to end the regular season to end up, again, just on the outside looking in of the playoff. At what point during that season did you actually believe, like, hey, wait a minute, this team might actually do enough to get themselves in?
Let's see. So definitely at some point during that winning streak, I thought, like, okay, they got a chance. I think it was probably after, I'd say after Missouri. I thought, like, okay, they won that game. They haven't beaten Missouri since, 2019 at that point?
It's been a while.
Yeah, 2018, I think. Right?
Yeah, they were 0 for Drinkwitz.
Yeah. So, yeah, it had been a while since they had beaten Missouri. Like, I think the Skarnecchia game was the last time they had beaten Missouri at the time. So, yeah, like at that point, you're kind of like, okay, like this has some potential because you still had to go to Clemson at the end of the year. Like, yeah, you had 3 losses, but you just beat a really good Missouri team. You had already beaten a top 10 A&M team. You go on the road to play Clemson. Like, I thought after they beat Clemson, I really thought they were going to have a chance to sneak in. I thought that would help them elevate enough, but ultimately it didn't. And I think in the second to last rankings, they were like at 14 or something. And it was just like, yeah, they're not making the playoff at that point.
Yeah, to your point, I think the Missouri game is what really confirmed belief for a lot of people. Look, you went out there and you obliterated a really bad Oklahoma team that was dealing with a ton of injuries. Hey, you finally won a game in the SEC for the first time since Kentucky that year, but that didn't do a whole lot to move the needle. You pull the upset against A&M, which, hey, that's great. That's special. You go on the road to Vanderbilt, a tricky Vanderbilt team that had obviously pulled the Alabama upset earlier on in the season. Big win there. You then got yourself into the rankings, and then you have a ranked matchup with the Missouri. And it looked like after Luther Burden scored that touchdown with 2 minutes to go or something along those lines, maybe a minute ago. I don't even know how much time was left on the clock. It looked like they had just crushed your dreams, right? And okay, here comes the fourth loss of the season, and you come back down the field. Rocket Sanders does what he does, scores a touchdown, place goes crazy. And yeah, I think that night is where that belief set in for a lot of people. Like, okay, hey, you're going to win against Wofford the next week. You're going to be on a 5-game winning streak, ranked somewhere inside the top 20, going into the Clemson game, where they were also going to be ranked inside the top 20. And, I mean, really, after the Clemson game, because of the momentum Carolina had, because of the winning streak they had been on, we weren't wrong to believe that they had a chance. Now, the problem, as we know, was 2 teams you lost to, and Ole Miss and Alabama, right in front of you, right? So you were going to have
whoa. Ole Miss was not right in front of them.
Were they not right in front of them in the rankings?
Yeah. But I'm talking about, like, games that they probably should have won. Like,
no. I'm like
okay.
in the rankings, the 2 teams in front of you.
I see what you mean.
So, hindsight being 2020, the belief that the playoff committee was going to suddenly jump Carolina over 2 teams they lost to.
That wasn't realistic.
That wasn't super realistic.
For a second, I thought you were talking about, like, that game was right in front of them.
No. Like the teams legitimately ranked in front of you.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, Carolina was 15. Alabama, I think, was 14, and Ole Miss was 13.
Yeah.
And, like, boom, you're on the outside looking in at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't happening.
But we had legitimate reason to believe that something could happen to where, hey, they're playing like the best team in the country right now, or one of the best teams in the country. Maybe that'll do something for them. It obviously didn't, but we weren't wrong to have that belief in that moment.
Definitely. And again, it was the first year of the playoff. We didn't know for sure if a 9-3 team would be able to get in. Kind of felt like they would, but it just didn't happen. And now we kind of know, like, the record has been set. You pretty much need 10 wins to get in. Now, it doesn't guarantee it. Vanderbilt last year is a perfect example of that, of a 10-2 team that did everything they needed to do, but at the end of the day, they were not able to get into the playoff, even though they kind of met the requirements. But, yeah, I mean, for South Carolina this year, though, specifically, I think they have a shot to be in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
It really is going to come down to, like, can they get enough quality wins, and can they get off to a good start? Like, seriously, heading into that bye week, they've got to be, if they want to be in the playoff mix, I think they got to be like 5-1.
Well, let me take that question a step further here, because the first playoff ranking should come out after the Oklahoma game on Halloween. So you'll have played 8 games at that point in time. Where does this team need to be after 8 games for you to believe, hey, you got a chance here?
After 8 games, I'd really say they need to have like 1 loss. Yeah, 1 loss. After Oklahoma, yeah, 1 loss. Because you look at it, I mean, the games that they could potentially lose are Alabama, at Florida, and then you got Tennessee and Oklahoma. I mean, those are all tricky. I just don't think you can go into the final month of the season with 2 losses and expect to come out unscathed to make the playoff. You're going to lose. I think you're going to either lose to Texas A&M or Georgia, right? And that would be 3 losses. And then at Clemson, who knows? So if you really want to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, a little margin for error, you want to be heading into November with 1 loss, and that gives you, I think, a real shot to, even if you lose a game, everything's still in front of you, I think.
Sure. And also, the playoff committee has shown when you lose games also matters as well. So if you were to be 9-3, but 2 of your losses came in the final month of the regular season, that hurts your chances a lot, right? Because it's all about building and moving forward. And if you're, I don't know, let's say you are 7-1 through 8 games, and then you lose to A&M, and then you lose to Georgia 2 weeks later, then I just find it tough to think that you're going to put yourself in that mix to be around that 12th-ish spot in the rankings. Now, again, if you're 8-0 and you only lose 2 games, that's a different story. But, yeah, 8-1, and then if you can find a way to beat either Texas and Georgia and then handle your business against Arkansas and Clemson, you're in a good spot. But again, a lot of football to be played between now and then, but just kind of off of what Heather Dinich says in this article, that's kind of where you need to be when November rolls around.
Yeah, no, totally.
So there's small chance nonetheless, but we'll see what happens for Carolina. As far as who is going to win the national championship, a little thought exercise coming up next. With that coming up on the other side, it is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry here in the game. All right, welcome back in. Is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher here on your Tuesday on the Game. Reminder, coming up Friday, August 28th, it's the Game's Summer Golf Classic at Charwood Golf Club, presented by 1075 The Game, the Lexington County Gamecock Club. 9:30 start. If you've been out there before, you know the deal. Looking forward to seeing you out there, and we'll have more information on you as we get closer to that. But again, the Game's Summer Golf Classic coming up Friday, August 28th, out at Charwood over in West Columbia. I was listening to the Josh Pate college football show yesterday, and he mentioned a thought exercise that he had done with Cole Kubelik. I don't know if it was on one of their shows or just those two going back and forth or whatever, but I thought it was pretty interesting. It doesn't really have a name, but I'll call it In the Circle or Die. Basic premise is you have a circle, right? And inside the circle, you have to put something. You have to put a list of things, and if the thing and if whatever the topic at hand is not in there, in your circle, you die, quote unquote. They were talking about doing it for national championship contenders. So the premise is you have to put every team that you think has a legitimate shot at winning the national championship inside of your circle. And if on January 25th, the winner of the national championship is not in your circle, you die, quote unquote, or you lose, basically. And I thought that was interesting. And as we go into a new college football season, a lot of good teams, a lot of great teams, a lot of teams in the mix for the playoff, but only a few really have a shot at winning the national championship. So, Jack, I'll ask you to make your circle and put in the goal is to try and keep it as small as possible. Yeah, you could put in all 136 or 38 teams in FBS. That's way too much. Keeping the list of teams as small as possible, what's going to be in your circle? How confident are you of saying, yes, these are the only teams I feel like can actually win the national championship?
I think there's like less than 10 teams that would be in my circle. I'll just list them off. And a lot of it is based off of like Heather Dinish's list, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, these teams make sense as teams that I think have a legit case to win the title this year. Texas, that's one.
Okay.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, Indiana, Miami, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. I think those are like the teams, 9 teams that I think have a really solid chance to win the title this year. I thought about LSU for a second, but I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know what's going to happen yet. It's year one with Lane Kiffin out there in Baton Rouge. I think they're going to lose a few games, especially with the schedule being what it is. I don't think they're going to be contending for a title this year. Those teams in front of them, yeah, I would say for sure.
And for reference, that is the top 9 teams in Dinish's thing.
Yes.
So that you draw the hard line there.
Yes.
Of because A&M's 9, LSU's 10. You're saying, okay, this is where you would feel comfortable saying there is no chance any of those other teams, even LSU at 10, is going to win the national championship.
LSU could, but I'm talking about.
Would you feel confident enough to put them in your list?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because you look at the schedule. I think they're going to probably lose to Texas. I think they may end up losing at Rocky Top, Tennessee, Alabama. That's going to be a tough game. I mean, who knows about Clemson at the beginning of the year, right? Mm-hmm. I think everyone kind of is sleeping on Clemson this year. I don't know if Clemson's going to be any good, but we'll see. They may fly under the radar. Who the heck knows? So I think LSU, they may end up having a few losses on their schedule to the point where they may have 3 losses and may just not even make the playoff in general.
I'm pretty similar to you with my list. I have all teams 1 through 8, which again, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, Indiana, Miami, and Ole Miss. I don't have A&M on mine because I need to see, like Elko's put together 2 really strong seasons, but they've not been able to close out the month of November, right? And they still made the playoff last year, but they didn't go to the playoff with as much momentum because, again, they fell to their rival and once again had a shot to make the SEC championship and didn't get it done. I need to see more of a complete season, and I need to see A&M playing its best football at the end of the year. Now, again, very talented roster. Marcel Reed, one of the most experienced quarterbacks coming back in the SEC. I don't doubt their ability to make the playoff, but in terms of winning a national championship, I'm not quite there with them yet. All those other teams, though. So, for reference, in the SEC, my list stops at Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State, and Ole Miss, excuse me. For the Big Ten, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. You've got Notre Dame, independent, of course, and then Miami out of the ACC. I did debate Texas Tech because talented roster, obviously not going to have Brendan Sorsby right now. And again, I don't doubt that they're going to be the best team in the Big Ten and likely to make the playoff. They got to get through BYU. That'll be a tricky test. But I can't put them on the list for the belief that they're going to put together, 3 to 4 wins between December and January and win the national championship. Like this, what the college football playoff expanding has done has definitely made the champion more undisputed, if that makes sense. Because you have to go through so many more layers of this to actually win the national championship. In years past in the BCS, be ranked 1 or 2, which wasn't easy, but then win 1 game, right? In the 14 playoff, all right, be ranked in the top 4, win 2 games. Still not easy, but you saw a team like TCU get into the national championship by beating Michigan and then getting obliterated by Georgia. What the 12-team playoff has done is kind of eliminated some of that, all right, you won, 1 game kind of went your way, and now you're in a national championship. You got to go through so many hoops now. I just can't feel confident saying that Texas Tech would be on my list.
I can't. I don't know. They got obliterated last year in that Orange Bowl. I need to see it, and it's kind of the same way. A&M, I thought about leaving them out for a second. But I'm like, you know what? Elko's done a good job. I know they lost to Miami at home in the first round last year, but that's such a talented team, and you got Marcel Reed back. I think they could do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but we'll see. I think the circle definitely needs to be small, right? It's got to be. It can't be too big because you just don't want to throw too many teams in there. And in all honesty, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's other teams that should not be in that mix, but a lot of those teams that are towards the top, like should Oregon really be in there? Oregon really hasn't done much to deserve being in there. They've always been highly ranked, and they've always been a team that's going to the playoff. But every time they've gotten there, they lost to Indiana last year. They lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl the year before. So you could really narrow it down that way. But truthfully, I think there's like 8 to 9 teams that I think are legit national championship contenders.
I'm adding our picks here to my hot take note in my iPhone, and we will revisit this in January.
Ooh, I like this.
To see if we were right, to see if we
now
live or die based on our circle picks.
Yeah, so what yeah, so like we're just going to die, like that's it.
Well, I didn't want to put any repercussions on this. Maybe we can come up with something later on of like, well, because we basically both have the same teams.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of us would win and one of us would lose, but we'll see how right we are. We can also see how far all these teams make it in the playoff, if all 8 make it into the playoff and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Or for you 9, because you added A&M.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how our confidence in these picks ages as the season goes along when we crown our national championship coming up on January 25th. One of those teams just signed their head coach to an extension. We'll tell you about that on the other side. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri here on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Velcher wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Tuesday on the game. We were just talking about teams that we believe have legitimate shots at winning the national championship. And our list, it's 8 for me, 9 for Jack, all within the top 9 of Heather Dinich's list that she put out yesterday, which was based a lot on the analytics of who's got the best chance to make the playoff and win the national championship. One of those teams that was on both of our lists was the Miami Hurricanes, fresh off of playing for and nearly winning the national title for the first time in 20 years against Indiana this past year. Well, yesterday, they have signed Mario Cristobal to a long-term extension. We don't have the details about it at this point in time, and I believe Miami's a private school, so I don't know if we're actually going to get the specifics on that or not. But Cristobal, well-deserved, obviously, for getting his alma mater to a national championship. And really, last year, Jack, he broke through because he was a guy that people have doubted for a long time. He had good Oregon teams before he left for Miami, but didn't feel like he could get over the hump and play for that big one. They finally did that last year. Again, so darn close. If not for some Fernando Mendoza heroics there late, they could have been the national champions.
What a run they went on. It's all very well-deserved. Quite frankly, I'm a little surprised it's taken until now to get this contract extension done, but because typically you would feel like, okay, like this stuff would happen right afterwards. Like maybe it's because, with Beamer after the 9-win season, he got the contract extension I think that same month in January of 2025. So, yeah, I mean, it's well-deserved for sure. I think we all had a little bit of doubt with Cristobal, but he's proved a lot of people wrong. He did a really good job last year with that team, getting them on a good run to the national championship. And, yeah, I mean, I think it's a little too – I don't know if it's too soon to say Miami is back, but it definitely feels like they're heading in the right direction to where they should be. I mean, they're one of the teams I view as a national championship contender this year.
Oh, yeah. No, the ACC is kind of, I think, entering in the Miami era, right? Now, listen, that's what was said when they entered the conference 20 years ago, and they still, I believe, not even played for the conference championship, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So we got to tread lightly when we say those kind of things. But in terms of for a conference that we know is top to bottom, not as deep as the SEC and the Big Ten, Miami is the one team in that conference that seems to be set up for success in the long term. They can go out there and get tons of talent. Darian Menso, we mentioned Dre Jacobs going down there among so many other players they've been able to get this offseason in the past couple of years. So Cristobal is always going to have really talented teams, always going to have a good recruiting classes and all that kind of stuff. And they're probably going to be pulling the weight for the ACC for a while, but no reason to think they're not going to be a consistent national championship contender year in and year out, probably.
Yeah. I'd love to know what this contract looks like, honestly. I would imagine it's probably a lot of money. Probably, what do we guess, 5, 6, 7 years? I don't know. I mean, it's probably some sort of big deal for him and definitely well-deserved. And, yeah, I mean, Miami, I think they're very much a team that is going to – they should probably win the ACC this year, right? I mean, there's a few teams in the ACC that could sneak up on them, and anything can happen. But it feels like Miami's conference to lose at this point, and quite frankly, they should be the ACC's representative for the playoff when it's all said and done.
One thing Cristobal has to stop doing, and again, they still made the playoff and almost won the national championship a year ago. He's got to get past that loss they shouldn't have during the season, right? We all dogged him on what happened against Georgia Tech a couple years ago when they refused to just kneel the clock out and they fumble and Georgia Tech ends up winning that game. Now, Louisville and SMU were good teams in the ACC last year, but they weren't better than Miami. They lost both those games in the regular season. They've got to stop because, again, that almost cost them. Now, again, they shouldn't have been behind Notre Dame in the standings to begin with, but if they handle their business against those other two teams, that's never a debate on if they should have been in over Notre Dame or not, because the record would have been better. They've got to stop tripping up on teams that they kind of have no business losing to, because that's always kind of been a bit of a signature of Cristobal. Even going back to those Oregon teams, you look at some of those games they lost there, and it's like, man, how did they lose to, Oregon State or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. There always seems to be that game, and I think it was only 3 seasons ago that they had that awful game against Georgia Tech. I mean, it's like you just mentioned before, got to get past that stuff. But I think after the run they went on last year. I think all that bad stuff that happened is in the past, and Miami's different now, and it's cool. It's cool to see him doing this, at Miami, a place that he loves a lot, and having a lot of success there, and being the guy to get Miami back on track. I think college football is overall better when Miami's good.
Yeah.
Like, you think back to the early 2000s, like, they were really good. They had a few decent years in, like, the late 2010s. Like, I remember the one year they were in the playoff mix as, like, a team that was in the ACC championship against, like, Clemson, and they got smacked. It was, like, 2017, I think. But, like, yeah, I mean, now it kind of feels like they're squarely back to being where they need to be.
Yeah, no doubt. And, again, well-deserved contract extension there for Mario Cristobal. Again, going back to something we brought up earlier in the hour, I wish they were coming in here week number 1. Now, that would be an uphill battle for South Carolina, but, man, how cool would it be to see the U in Williams-Brice Stadium fresh off playing for a national championship? Obviously, not going to happen, but, man, what could have been.
It'd be a big test. Be a big test for sure.
Well, it's kind of one of those things, too. Like, even if Carolina didn't win that game, if they fought tooth and nail down to the end and gave Miami all they could handle, yeah, you wouldn't love the fact they would lost, but you come away from it saying, you know what, I think this team's going to be okay, as opposed to Carolina could beat Kent State by 90 points, and we're not going to feel better or worse. And be like, all right, that's cool. That's what you're supposed to do. All right, let's get to week 3, and we can actually figure out what this team is.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, they won't really be tested those first 2 games of the year, but like you said, when you get to week 3, it'll be Mississippi State. That's definitely going to be a test. Those SEC games, man, it's like playing Miami. Those will definitely be a test for sure.
Yep, no doubt about it. And I don't know, hopefully, correction, Miami did play for the conference championship in that year against Clemson in 2016. They have not won the conference championship. That is the thing. Hour number 2 on the way. How good are first-year head coaches with no Power 4 experience in the SEC? We'll discuss that on the other side next here on The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 2. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head, Jack Velcher, Chris Clark joining us now. Chris, hopefully all the Gamecock Central business you and Wes were dealing with yesterday went well.
Great business day.
Good business day.
Back at it now.
Good things, positive things, things we'll know about down the line.
Good things.
Good things. All
Robert
right.
De Niro impression. Good things.
Good to know. Good to know. Glad to have you back in here. We're going to talk to Andrew Spivey of Gator Country coming up here in about 15 minutes. As again, we've been bouncing around to a lot of different teams that Carolina's going to play this upcoming year, and that's one of the most intriguing ones for a lot of reasons. Obviously, anytime you play Florida, especially getting them back on the schedule, it's a really, really big deal. And they are breaking in a new head coach in John Summerall, who I think, was he the star of media days maybe 2 weeks ago? Certainly had some of the best quotes up there on the stage.
Got a lot of attention. Threatened to jokingly, okay, don't take it too serious, throw a podium. He had his wife revealing that he likes pedicures.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
That, by the way, if they start losing, that's going to come back to bite them.
Oh, the game day signs are going to be phenomenal.
Yep.
Can you imagine if they play? There will be random ones spliced in. There'll be game day will be at like Notre Dame, and you'll see a random like John Summerall, foot sign somewhere.
Summerall feet picks ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they actually play in a game day game, it'll be savage. That'd be phenomenal. But it's a very interesting team. And I was talking to some people about Florida yesterday, and Andrew Spivey, who we're going to talk to in less than 15 minutes, he's got his finger on the pulse down there. So I have a bunch of questions. I'm sure we all do for him. But just a very fascinating team. They got picked. Where were they picked, Tyler? Kind of middle of the pack in the SEC, maybe around there. 8 or so.
And I think the brand of Florida does a lot of heavy lifting there.
It does.
100%.
And you get the sense that they underachieved relative to the talent level that they have. Now, part of that is obviously, and anybody listening who's a Big Ten homer is going to be upset about this, but it is a really good league. When you look at top to bottom, you got to bring it every week. We're talking a lot about Mississippi State lately. Like, they're not getting a lot of preseason love. People think they'll be somewhere between, 12 to 16. They're going to be a tough team to play. They got Kamario Taylor. Their corner is a potential first-round pick. They have an offense that's very tough to defend. So the point is, to bring it back to Florida, it's a team that's underachieved probably relative to their talent. It's easy to forget that because they did have a coaching change. Sometimes you got a coaching change and you're kind of starting from scratch in a sense. You've got the portal, so there's typically a lot of roster turnover. If you fire a coach, things have normally gone bad on the field, and there's levels to that. Florida was 4-8 last year, just didn't end how they wanted to. And so you bring in John Summerall. He's got a good track record as a coach. He is a first-year coach, but Florida actually has a good bit of talent coming back. There's some questions. They're breaking in a new quarterback in Aaron Philo, who wasn't a starter at Georgia Tech, but knows the Buster Faulkner system. Summerall hires Buster Faulkner away from Georgia Tech as his OC. He's pretty highly regarded. They've got a lot of talent on the D-line. They've got a deep receiver room. Like, this is a team that I think can still cause some issues for people. So it'd be interesting to get Andrew's thoughts on it.
It's going to be a tricky game when South Carolina has to go there. I think just for the reason alone of it's the Swamp. Yeah, this will be an early kickoff game, like in that 12 to 1 p.m. slot. Not sure like what time specifically it's going to be in that window, but we know it's an early window game. And it's going to be tricky for that reason alone. Like, it's on the road. Gainesville, I've never been there before, but I'm sure it looks like a tough place to go in there and play. And you look at it this way, I think we're going to know a lot about this Florida team by the time we get there. Of course, it's October 10th, so you're talking about like a month and a week, like 5 games into the year already. Yeah, you have a pretty good idea of what this crew looks like. Florida Atlantic, Campbell, they're going to win those games. You go on the road to Auburn. That's a really interesting early test. Honestly, for Auburn as well. Like, Auburn's got Baylor week 1 in Atlanta, so that'll be a real immediate sign of like how things are looking for Alex Golesh right out of the gate. But like week 3 at Auburn at night, if Florida goes in there and wins that game, That's an early statement, in my opinion. Like, we don't know how Auburn's going to be yet this year. They may end up being a fringe bowl team this year and not have a great season. But going to play at Auburn at night is going to be tricky. Then you get Ole Miss at home, and then at Missouri, and then it's South Carolina. Those 3 games against Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, good or bad, will tell us a lot about Florida and what type of team the Gamecocks will be playing by that point.
That disrespect for the Camels.
That's right. Disrespecting the Camels, the fighting Camels.
I guess Florida Atlantic, too. So
The Owls.
I'm sorry, guys.
Don't disrespect the Owls, man. So the Florida game is one of 3 times this year that South Carolina will face a first-year head coach in the SEC that has no prior Power 4 experience, right? John Summerall at Florida, Will Stein at Kentucky, and then Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas. And I was curious yesterday and I started to cap this at 20 years because you can go back further and further. In the past 2 decades, how successful are those coaches that come into an SEC school with no prior Power 4 head coaching experience, and how well did they do out of the gate? There are 26 coaches that have done this in the past 20 years, since 2006, taken over an SEC school after having never been a Power 4 head coach before. You guys want to take a guess at how many of those guys have actually had winning records in that first year? In 26.
And so you're also counting, for instance, a Shane Beamer because he was never a head coach.
Shane Beamer counts,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
So
I didn't know if it was direct, like, hey, Power 4 head coach to SEC.
Yeah, and for the caveat here as well, only inside the SEC. So Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma does not count because they were not in the SEC. So only since 2006 or years since you've been in the SEC.
So 26, you said, head coaches?
26 total head coaches in the past 20 years.
How many had a winning record? I'm thinking
some of them might surprise you, by the way.
Okay, based on your premise, it almost sounds like maybe it's a low number. How about 10?
10? Jack, you want to guess?
So 26 have a winning record.
In the past 20 years, going back to 2006.
26 total, how many have a winning record?
In year one.
So,
in year one,
To reestablish, since 2006, there have been 26 head coaches in the SEC to come in with no prior Power 4 head coaching experience, either being a G5 FCS coach or a coordinator, and then taking over.
I feel like it's a little lower. I don't know if it's that. I was gonna originally say like maybe half, but like that'd be 13.
Okay.
I'm gonna say because I could think of a few that did not do well out of the gate. I'm gonna say it's like 8.
Okay, 8 is actually correct.
Okay,
well, look at Jack.
Let's go.
Now you hit one Beamer, of course, went 7-6 in 2021. Yes. Can you guys name the 7 others by chance? Again, some might surprise you.
So,
or names you haven't thought about in a while.
Heupel. Was Heupel one?
Let's see. I don't believe he had a win. Did he have a winning record in his first year? Double check on that.
I didn't think he had a losing record at any point, but I could be wrong.
Did Saban have a winning record? Did he go 7-6 or 6-7 in that?
No, Saban had been a prior Power 4 head coach.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, coming from the NFL, but obviously was at LSU before that.
I do need to add Heupel to the list. I forgot that UCF was in the AAC when he took over.
So 9.
So 9.
So it's 9.
Damn, man.
So Lane had already been a Power 4 head coach, multiple spots.
He does not count.
Where did Musch
actually,
was Muschamp a head coach before Florida?
Lane does count because he'd not been a prior Power 4 head coach prior to Tennessee.
So 10.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of the Ole Miss tenure. So
So he is one of them. Yep.
Okay.
So we're just gonna keep adding guys.
Adding guys.
So 10.
Well, no. I have him on.
Is it 9?
I have him on the list.
Okay, so it's 9.
Because he had been in the NFL prior to that.
Okay, so Lane, Heupel, Beamer.
Was Muschamp a head coach ever before Florida?
He was not.
No.
Did he?
was a coach in waiting at Texas.
And he is one of the ones on the list.
All right.
Because he went
That's a good pull.
7-6 in 2011.
There you go.
Now, Pete Golding doesn't count because he took over, like, in the playoff.
You're right. We're not counting that one.
He had a winning record.
This is full year. Full year.
Let's see. Bielema was at Wisconsin before going to Arkansas.
Yep.
I got one for you.
Okay.
Actually, I have 2.
Kirby.
And Mark Richt.
Well, we're not going back that far.
Okay.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
okay.
2006 on, right? I didn't want to have to dig back too far.
What
I
about
kept it the past 2 decades.
I don't think he probably had a winning record his first year. What about Mark Stoops?
not
Stoops
a winning
at
record.
Kentucky did not. He went. Yeah, he had a losing record.
I was going to say they were pretty bad early on, but he did turn them around.
James Franklin.
James Franklin. No, he went 6 and 7 actually.
Close. Okay.
How many do we need? 5.
Let's see,
We're getting this.
Yeah, we've
before
got
the break.
Heupel, Kiffin, Beamer,
Yeah, we're too deep into this
Herbie,
now.
Muschamp. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 more left
Since 2006.
since 2006.
Venables was at Oklahoma when they were in the Big 12, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So he doesn't count.
All right, he doesn't count. All right.
And then 2006 would have been the middle of Urban Meyer.
Yep.
Yeah, but he was already at Utah
He
before.
took over
He's at Utah
05.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have, yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who else has had?
You kind of have to go,
Drinkwitz was at. Well, is this with Power 4 experience?
Yes.
Okay, what about Drinkwitz?
He went 5 and 5 in 2020. He doesn't count.
That's a winning record.
No, it's a 500 record.
Ah, shoot. Yeah.
Like you have to have more wins than losses.
Ugh.
I'm trying to illustrate how hard it is to win in your first year in the SEC here.
Oh, yeah. It is hard to win. It's all,
give us the rest of them,
All
Tyler.
right. So the ones here's
it's
the
no
full
fun.
Here's the full list. Gus Malzahn at Auburn in 2013 made the national championship. Muschamp in 2011 at Florida. McElwain in 2015 at Florida. Remember they made the SEC title his first 2 years. Kirby Smart at Georgia in 2016. Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State in 2018. Told you it was going to be a name you didn't
Wouldn't
think
have
of.
pulled that, yeah.
Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss in 2012. They went 7 and 6. Beamer at Carolina in 21. Kiffin at Tennessee in 2009. And then Heupel at Tennessee in 2021.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, past 20 years, 26 head coaches. That's all the ones that have winning records. 9 out of 26.
And this year, sorry, Jack, this year the guy's stepping in. It's Silverfield, it's Sumrall.
Yep.
It's
Golish.
Will Stein,
Oh, wait.
it's Alex
Golish.
Golish.
Yeah.
And
No,
Carolina,
That's a lot.
Carolina
will
won't see Golish.
3 of 4.
They'll see 3 of the 4. They're stepping into, hey, guys, welcome. Here's a 9-game schedule.
Yeah, here's an extra game, just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll talk with Andrew Spivey of Gator Country coming up next as they get set for your number 1 under John Summerall. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head, Jack Felcher, Chris Clark with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Been bouncing around the SEC to talk to people that have insight on South Carolina's opponents for this upcoming year. We now head down to Gainesville and welcome in Andrew Spivey from Gator Country, joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Andrew, appreciate your time this morning. Hopefully you're doing well, and how excited is Gator Country for the season starting in 32 days?
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always, and absolutely a ton of excitement. John Summerall brought that excitement from, pretty much his opening press conference on. He's brought that excitement, and that continued on in the spring and continued on in SEC Media Days, and, it's hard not to feel the excitement, when you have a guy like Summerall who brings the energy day in and day out.
Do we know how far he can throw a podium if he had to do that?
I don't know, but the people who took it the wrong way frustrate me because he was legit just having fun, and that's who John Summerall is. He's a guy who he just says what's on his mind and has fun. It was not malicious at all when he said that.
Andrew, Chris, appreciate you taking time to join us, man. So we were just talking before you came on about the amount of coaches who have stepped into the SEC having never been a Power 4 head coach. So that could be not a head coach at all or just a G5 head coach or whatever. And I think Tyler said 26. We landed on, 9 of them had a winning record in year one.
In the past 20 years.
In the past 20 years.
Yeah.
So not all time, but in the past 20 years. So a guy like Mark Richt wouldn't count at Georgia. But that's the situation Summerall's in, and now he's stepping in and being welcomed to the SEC with a 9-game schedule, right? So one thing I think we know about Florida is this is a team that still has a good bit of talent. And so given that, what are fair expectations for John Summerall in year one? Is it, hey, go bowling, have a winning record, kind of set the foundation, or are the expectations greater down there in Gainesville, you think?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's go bowling. And, I think we've started doing, our predictions, Chris, like we all do on our website to fill summer. And, I think we've landed anywhere from 7 to potentially 9 if everything goes really well for this team. I think 7 is kind of probably more realistic, and of course you have the Ole Miss game that it's a toss-up because they're coming off of the LSU game there. You have the Oklahoma game that's in Gainesville, so you have the Georgia game in Atlanta, and you and I both know that game is crazy, and so there's a few toss-ups, but I would say the biggest thing that the fans are expecting and wanting to see is they're wanting to see an offense that can move the ball, and it's crazy to say because it's a defensive head coach, but maybe the biggest hire was Buster Faulkner and his excitement from the offensive side of the ball. So I would say, 7 wins is what they're looking for and to go bowling, but the offense to be successful is probably the biggest thing, more so than even wins and losses.
Andrew, Jack Velcher here. Appreciate you joining us. Let's talk about, speaking of Buster Faulkner, let's talk about that quarterback situation heading into camp. Obviously, Aaron Philo coming over from Tech. You got Tramell Jones Jr. coming back, but looking at this, is this a competition in your opinion? Is Philo the guy? What can you tell us about the quarterback situation heading into camp?
Yeah, it's a real competition. You talk to people in the building and they say some days they walk away and say Philo's the guy. Some days they walk away and say Tramell's the guy. And I guess the biggest difference right now, I think, is Philo's probably got the edge because of the experience in the system, and they know what he has. But one of the biggest, I guess, one-liners that a staffer told me was, Tramell has days where you're like, oh my, he can be really, really good, and then he makes a play and it's like, oh my, he can be that bad as well. And so I think Tramell's ups and downs is what's going to cost him maybe the job for right now. But, Tramel's had an incredible spring, and his upside is really good. I think eventually he's the guy, but I think going into the season, Aaron Philo will be the starter just because he's probably the more consistent guy, but also the guy that's been in the system. He has Harrison Moore at center who's been in the system as well. Those two guys working together for an extended period of time will help them, and that's why he'll win the job. But it is a legit quarterback competition as we enter camp tomorrow.
A lot of teams in the SEC dealing with quarterbacks that don't have a ton of experience in terms of games started, and Philo and Jones fall into that category. How much more sense of calm does it bring you, though, knowing you have one of the best running backs in the SEC and Jaden Ball running behind them?
Yeah, I think the biggest excitement that we hear constantly is Buster Faulkner seems like he understands how to use Jaden Ball. I mean, we all seen what he did with Haynes King last year, and he understands that guy needs the ball, and Jaden Ball needs the ball, and he's a guy that can do it all. But the biggest frustration last year was when it was the game on the line, it seemed like it was somebody else's turn to get in there, and Jaden Ball would be on the sideline. So, you'd look in the fourth quarter when it was an opportunity to seal the game, and, that was the second-string guy's turn to play, and Billy Napier couldn't really read the game and understand that the game's on the line, Jaden Ball needs to go. So I'm excited to kind of see what Jaden can do with an offensive coordinator who understands that, hey, we need to get our best player the ball, and that's Jaden Ball.
Talking with Andrew Spivey of Gator Country about Florida heading into the 2026 season. Andrew, what are aside from the quarterback situation, obviously, and, everything else that comes with a first-year head coach stepping in, what are the positions you feel best about just from a personnel standpoint, and then what are the biggest questions? From my perspective, I was talking to some people about this yesterday. Seems like Florida has some dudes on the D-line. They've obviously got Jaden Ball, a proven guy. They have what appears to me to be a pretty deep receiving core. Is that right? And then, what are maybe some others, and then some big question marks from a personnel standpoint?
Yeah, I would say edge rusher is a position of that they're very high on. You have Jaden Woods there. KJ Ford's the freshman coming in that they feel really good on. The defensive line as a whole they feel very good on. And linebacker as well. You return Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, and you have Jaden Robinson and a couple other guys that are that are returning that haven't maybe played but have experience like Miles Johnson. Obviously, receiver, like you said, you can go deep. I mean, you have guys like Micah Mays and Bailey Stockton who don't get talked about because, Vernell Brown is the talked about, Dallas Wilson, Eric Singleton. Those are the guys that you talk about the most, but Bailey Stockton and Micah Mays are two guys that the staff's really high on. The biggest question mark has got to be offensive line. When you look at it in the spring, the offensive line was pretty bad. And, John Summerall's talked about it over the offseason as well, as this was a position that wasn't very strong in the weight room, wasn't very good. And Phil Trotline and John Summerall together have really put an emphasis this summer on them getting stronger in the weight room, but also them becoming more of a unit together. And they feel like that they've gotten there, but I think that's going to be the biggest question is how do those five guys, and then can they find number 6 and number 7 to rotate in? Can they find enough guys there to play as a whole to get Jaden Baugh, those running lanes, to get the quarterback plenty of time to throw the ball? And I feel good with Trotline because he's done it year in and year out, but this has been a weakness for Florida for years now. Can Phil Trotline do it in year one? We'll see.
Got about another 2 minutes here, Andrew, before we have to hit a hard break. Just kind of talking about, you talked about expectations a little earlier for the season in year one with Summerall. I guess my question, just from what you understand with the fan base out there in Gainesville and the history of the program and whatnot, how much patience is there given the situation of the program after how things went with Billy Napier? Like, is there an understanding of, like, hey, this may take time, it can be done rather quickly? Like, what do you get a sense of, like, the patience level of the fan base is with Summerall heading into this season?
Zero patience. Yeah, I say that jokingly, but there isn't much patience, and the fan base understands that the amount of money being poured into not only the coaching staff, because John Summerall got a huge upgrade. I mean, remember Buster Faulkner's making $2 million, but also the amount of money poured into the roster. The expectations are, hey, you need to show some ability to get better. You need to see improvement this year. Not necessarily get to the SEC championship or whatever, but show improvement this year. And if you don't, well then we got the wrong guy. And unfortunately, John Summerall comes into a situation where he is another power 5 guy, or was not a power 4 guy coming in. He has to prove himself, and he's done so far. But once the season hits, he has to prove it again. And one thing that was told to me early on was Urban Meyer met with this coaching staff and Steve Spurrier as well. Pretty much the first week they got there, and Urban and Steve both told the coaching staff, hey, look, if you don't win, you'll be fired very quickly here, so you better win quick.
Last 30 seconds here. Again, these Carolina and Florida played each other every year for 30 years, now back on being annual opponents again. Is this a game that Gator fans are excited to have back on the schedule? How do they feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest block, probably in Florida history with Jarvis Moss, and it's a game that they like, they enjoy. I mean, from everybody I've been told is, Florida fans enjoy traveling up to Carolina to watch that game, and I'm expecting it to be a big game down in Gainesville this year. Urban Meyer will go into the Ring of Honor that game as well. I believe it's homecoming as well, so excitement for sure.
Looking forward to it. We'll probably talk to you before that matchup in October. Andrew, appreciate the time, and we'll check in with you then.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Andrew Spivey there of Gator Country. We'll come back, continue on Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, y'all, let's tell you about our show's presenting sponsor, and that's our friends over at Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. KrantzCooling.com, K-R-A-N-T-Z, cooling with a K. KrantzCooling.com is where you can go to learn more about their services. Since 1983, they've been serving Midland's businesses and families like mine with reliable local HVAC services, super quick response times, and great work. They've helped out me. They've helped out Wes at our home with a variety of heating and air needs, whether it's installations, maintenance, repairs. They've done it all for us, and they have now added plumbing to their line of business. So it's the same great service you've been accustomed to from Justin Krantz, the general manager, and his team at Krantz Cooling, just now with plumbing. So if it's air, if it's heating, if it's plumbing, and you're a homeowner or a business owner, they can help you with all of it. 803-672-3224 or KrantzCooling.com.
I'm going to play who the AD says we're playing. I mean, North Texas 12-2, Western Kentucky 9-4. So, then we played 9 Big Ten teams?
Yeah.
And so,
So what's your AD's philosophy in it then?
I think right now the prevailing philosophy is the SEC's gone to 9, right? Conference games.
Mm-hmm.
10's at 9. And, okay, what you do in the Big Ten really matters a lot. Why make it harder on yourself?
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler, Jack, and Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. That, the voice of defending national championship head coach Curt Cignetti talking on the Triple Option podcast yesterday in wake of Indiana canceling a future series with Notre Dame that was set for 2030 and 2031. Now, there's some positives that come away from this that we'll get to in a moment, but Cignetti, who, of course, had the quote of the week last week, taking a shot at the SEC, once again, lightening up. Now, again, he says he's playing the schedule the AD gives him, but I'm sure he has some kind of hand in this as well. Lightening up the schedule for Indiana for years to come, where they will play no Power 4 opponents for this foreseeable future, scheduled all the way out until 2032, because at the time, the Big Ten still doesn't require it.
I mean, it makes sense if you don't have it. It's like for South Carolina, like they already play a Power 4 opponent outside of the conference. Why would they want to schedule another one, right? Well, that's why they've been canceling all the home and home with Miami and whatnot. So I get it for Indiana. Like, if you don't have to schedule a non-conference P4 opponent, why would you do that, right? You need as many wins as you can get at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking away some cool marquee games, that we would otherwise see. And, just talking to some people yesterday, we've mentioned this on the show, but you think about South Carolina here locally, how different would the feel be right now if you're preparing to go play Miami?
So we talked about earlier.
Game 1 versus Kent State.
The buzz would be insane.
Yeah.
Even if you don't win that game, if you made a game out of it and took them down to the wire, hey, you just played the defending national runner-ups tooth and nail at the end. How great would that be?
But it's probably, I don't know, I'm not great at spread. It's probably like a 10-point spread in Miami's favor, something like that.
Sure.
With what they did last year versus, South Carolina's expectations being lower. Yeah, so it's a much more buzzworthy, I think you could say, game. But this is just what we're seeing across the sport with the bigger conferences expanding their schedule out to 9 games, the SEC expanding out their schedule to 9 games. Something that was brought up around media days was the idea that the SEC's coaches, and I know we started this with Cignetti and Big Ten, but to bring it to the SEC and kind of locally, coaches are saying, wait a minute, we thought that the playoff was expanding. Now you're 3 things. We thought the playoff was expanding. We're going to 9 games. We would have been okay with that if the playoff was expanding, right? And I think third, there's not clarity year to year on, okay, are you guys going to actually reward stronger conferences, and in this context being the SEC, if we have 3 losses, in the league? Think about South Carolina. Yeah, they play 9 SEC games. For all intents and purposes, they play 10. Maybe Gamecock fans don't. Clemson, from a talent standpoint and what they've done, I know they've been a little down, so to speak. But from a roster standpoint, look how many draft picks they had last year. It's an SEC roster for all intents and purposes. Carolina plays 10 every year is the way I look at it. Unless Clemson falls off a cliff, yeah, some SEC teams are going to be up or down, but they're still SEC teams. They're still going to have talent every single week. You can go, I just mentioned Mississippi State earlier. They're picked near the bottom of the league. They have one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league just from a raw ability, and they have a potential first-round pick at corner. Plus the Mississippi State, like they always have good players. Even if they're not that good of a team, you got to bring it every week. So, that's what makes it tough. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth between, who's better, Big Ten, SEC. For me, I think the Big Ten is obviously incredibly good at the top. I think top to bottom, in terms of depth, the SEC is a little better, or to some degree better. if you play a 9-game schedule in either of those conferences, you probably are going to need a buffer.
Sure. Well, what this has done, because again, Notre Dame and Indiana were set to have a home-and-home schedule for 2030 and 2031. Indiana decided to cancel that on their own. This has opened the pathway for one of college football's premier rivalries to return. Starting in 2030, running through 2033 at least, we will see the return of Notre Dame and Southern California. They'll play home and away each of those 4 years. Again, this is a rivalry that is not on the table for this upcoming season. The future of it was in doubt. But, hey, one thing Indiana did do good in this instance was allow that rivalry to come back at least for a short period of time.
It is weird to see that those two teams aren't playing each other. It feels like they should always be playing each other every year. But I get it. And, look, I'm glad to see the news that, yeah, they're going to be having the, playing each other for, like, what is it, that 4-year series.
Yep.
From 2030 to, I guess, it'd be 2033. So, yeah, I think it's really good to see. And if I'm not mistaken, it starts at the Coliseum, too. So,
yes, it'll be at Southern Cal, Notre Dame, at Southern Cal, Notre Dame for those 4 years.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be. I mean, it is kind of crazy. So they're not playing each other this year, but they won't be playing again until 2030. That's correct. It's just weird to me. But I understand it because the way things are changing in college football, it feels like everything's changing.
It is also very important for Notre Dame as well, because as so many of these schools now in conferences like the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12 are trying to shy away from playing more marquee opponents in the non-conference, especially for teams that have built-in ones like Carolina and Florida and Georgia and stuff like that. Notre Dame needs all the help they can get. Yeah, they have the built-in thing with the ACC that gets them a set number of games every single year, but scheduling high-profile opponents out of conference is becoming trickier for them.
Yeah, that is a great point. Which teams are going to sign? Because it's not like Notre Dame is not just, Notre Dame, who's typically going to be a tough out, but it's Notre Dame, like this version of Notre Dame, where they're at right now, like this playoff caliber team. Yeah. So who's going to sign up from the Big Ten, SEC, and say, "Yep, we'll do that"? So what does that look like? Is it more like Big 12 teams? However many teams are in the pack, whatever nowadays. It seems like they're going to have to go more that route. And, I've always thought from like a Gamecock perspective, man, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to say, hey, we're going to go in 2031, we're going to go up to South Bend and play Notre Dame. That would be awesome. But why would you do that now? Not with basically 10 SEC games. No, you're going to play Clemson, you're going to play your SEC schedule, and then you're going to pick, no disrespect, you're going to go try, can we play Kent State and Towson every year for our other 2 games? And who can blame them?
Yeah, it's not fun for the fans, but it makes sense from a scheduling standpoint. So now with the return down the road in 2030 of Notre Dame and Southern California, where does their trophy rank on my rivalries trophy list that I created last summer? I'll bring that back up coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing, wrapping up our number 2 here on your Tuesday on the game. As we discussed in the last segment, the Notre Dame-Southern California rivalry will resume, at least for a short period of time, from 2030 to 2033, which means the jeweled shillelagh will once again be up for grabs. And last summer, I don't know if I brought this up to you guys or not, I went through and made a list where I ranked every single college football rivalry trophy between two teams. So the Commander-in-Chief trophy between the service academies doesn't count because that's between multiple teams. Just two teams head-to-head fighting for a trophy. There's a lot of them in college football. I went through and ranked all of them last year, and the jeweled shillelagh was one of them. And I'd forgotten about this list, quite honestly. 82 total trophies that I ranked last year, and I was happy to have an excuse to bring it back up again because I did work very hard on this last year. And the jeweled shillelagh is one of my favorites.
Where is it ranked?
Number 7.
Okay.
Number 7 overall on the list.
So what's above it?
So, did I tell you guys about this last year? I can't remember.
I remember it. I remember we talked about trophies. I don't remember if we went through the entire list.
So, in front of it is, at number 6, the bronze stalk between Northern Illinois and Ball State. It is literally a bronze stalk of corn that these two teams fight for. Number 5 is the Fremont Cannon. A lot of cannon trophies in college football, if you didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
This one's between Nevada and UNLV. It's like a full-size cannon, too, not like a small one. Like, this thing's big. Number 4, the Bones between Memphis and UAB. This is quite literally a rack of ribs that these two teams fight for in trophy form. Number 3, Paul Bunyan Trophy between Michigan and Michigan State. Not to be confused with number 2, Paul Bunyan's Axe, which is fought for between Minnesota and Wisconsin. My number 1, the most unique trophy on this list, is the $5 Bits of Broken Chair Trophy between Minnesota and Nebraska. That's all stemmed from a tweet from the Faux Pelini Twitter account like a decade ago that officially did actually become a trophy. So
That's
they get
hilarious.
points for creativity.
Some dude on Twitter just tweeted for years.
Yep.
Great follow.
Is he still around?
I think so. Yeah, I
haven't
think so.
seen his stuff in a while.
Can I give a couple other submissions that
Sure.
are maybe somewhere on your list?
Go for it.
Do they still have the iron skillet?
Yes, that is
TCU,
number
SMU.
27. For
way
me.
down there.
Yep.
I just think it's funny because it's a frying pan, and then it's got, it is cast iron, I think, and then it's got like a nameplate. It almost looks like a piece of paper they've taped on there, like a bumper sticker. But
Sure.
I think it's a plaque of some sort.
That makes sense.
That one's phenomenal.
Okay.
I also like the old brass spittoon
Okay.
between Indiana and Michigan State.
Number 21. Yep.
That's a good one. Kind of looks like Paul Bearer's urn.
A little bit, yeah.
Like a little bit. It's bigger. It's got a little bit of an urn type of flavor.
Okay.
So that takes me back to my childhood. So
Any particular favorite trophies for you, Jack?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Where do you have the Carolina-related trophy games?
I am so glad you asked.
Like the 3. I would imagine. I don't know. I feel like you're kind of high in the Mayor's Cup. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, I'm not higher on the
you're
Mayor's
not.
Cup.
No.
In fact, out of 82, Mayor's Cup came in at 71.
Holy. All right. What
It
about
is just a very basic, bland
It's
cup.
just like a trophy cup. What about the Bonham Trophy? Where's that one ranked?
46. Bottom's 46.
82. That's right in the middle of the pack.
I give it points for creativity because it is something different. I just think the care about it by the two fan bases keeps it pretty low.
Yeah. And where's the Palmetto?
43. Palmetto's 43.
Okay.
Unique design, again, has ties to the state, means something. I just think there's a lot more creative trophies out there.
Unique is the right word, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I spent a couple days on this list last year.
Yeah.
By the way, for those wondering, the anniversary award, which is given out in the Bowling Green State Kent State matchup, is dead last at 82 because, quite frankly, it just looks like when people get this guy's worked at this job for 30 years. Here's a little it's like a glass circular thing that's like, Joe Schmo, 30 years as an employee. Here you go. You can put it on your shelf. That's what this is. It's not becoming of a college football trophy.
where does the Floyd of Rosedale rank for you?
That is up
Rank.
there.
What is that?
That is.
It is a bronze statue of a pig Iowa, Minnesota.
That is number 8, right behind the jeweled shillelagh between Notre Dame and Southern California.
I mean, look at this thing. It's, first of all, it's a bronze statue of a pig, so automatically.
It's pretty good.
This is the one that's on the, like, it's one of the ones on the field after the game. The winning team goes and grabs it.
Look how big this thing is, Jack.
It's huge.
The PJ Fleck hoisting the Floyd of Rosedale. Like, that's a hog.
The Big Ten, like, really dominated the top of this list because that's number 8.
Big Ten Homer Tyler.
Yep, the Heartland Trophy with Iowa and Wisconsin's number 9. The other shillelagh trophy, because, hey, it's Notre Dame. You got to have a shillelagh. Between Notre Dame and Purdue is at 10. That's the one that's like the shillelagh is part of the trophy. It's not just the shillelagh itself. So Notre Dame in the top 10 twice.
We've also got, here's a funny one. Now, this may not count because it's kind of like unofficial.
Mm-hmm.
The golden screwdriver.
Okay.
Hawaii and Fresno State.
I did not have that one on my list, but I like the creativity.
Yeah. So
is it an unofficial one?
It's kind of unofficial. So basically, like Fresno State and Hawaii, they play. It's not an official part of the game. Yeah, I don't think yet. But in 2002, Hawaii went to Fresno State, and then June Jones was the coach of Hawaii at the time. And June Jones claimed that he got hit by a screwdriver.
Okay.
And so they put a golden screwdriver on artificial turf on a wooden base, and it kind of commemorates it. Check it out.
I like that. That's a good
unofficial.
That's a good backstory.
Yeah,
I might have to include that one on the list now.
Where do you have the golden hat trophy?
I'm so glad you asked.
That's a really cool one.
Number 12, because any trophy you can wear deserves points.
That is an awesome one, man.
There you go.
That one's sick.
That's for the Red River rivalry. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour coming up next on your Tuesday here on the game. 11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you here. 32 days to kick off. It's camp week. We'll get into all that as the week goes along. We'll hear from Beamer and all the coaches coming up on Thursday, setting the table for what hopefully is going to be a good month ahead, getting set for the start of the season. Wes, as I asked Chris at the beginning of the last hour, whatever business you guys were tending to yesterday, sounds like it went well. I'm privy to none of this, and hopefully that's a good thing.
Yeah, it went great. We'll just leave it at that, Tyler.
Okay. Will we find out about these things in the future?
Nope.
No. Okay. Good enough.
We like being mysterious with you.
It's nothing like it's nothing nefarious, right?
Definitely not nefarious.
Okay, just checking.
We stay out of trouble.
I figured you guys are good. I didn't think I'd have to worry about you guys not being here yesterday. When you guys weren't here yesterday, as I told you on our text chat, Wes did gain an advantage in our trivia contest because listener Greg on the text line got the question right and decided to award it to Wes. And I think we were talking about this in the break, Chris. I think the last time you guys were both out, this was weeks ago, I think you had a lead at that point in time, and Wes also got a point then to close the gap, right?
I think
is that correct?
When he knows that we're going to be out, he hits up somebody and it's like, hey, call in.
He's got people working behind the scenes.
Get it and give me the point. Yeah, I figured I would get like a pity point or something, but Greg, who's probably a relative of Wes, it's okay, Greg. I'm not mad at you. Wes is probably more likable, you know? So
listen, I didn't advocate one way or the other. I said if you get it right, you get to choose who the point goes to, and Greg chose Wes.
Big Wes fan.
So there you go.
Tyler, what is the score right now, man?
It is 19.5 to 17.
Okay. All right.
So we only got, 4.5 more weeks of this? So we're talking, 23-ish more questions between now and kickoff?
I got time.
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty.
I got time.
All right, are we ready?
I've got an announcement to make.
Oh, an announcement. Okay.
All right, so I would like to, first of all, thank Greg and the previous guy for those points, but I would like to respectfully decline them.
Oh.
And also, I have not heard back from DJ Swearinger.
I was going to ask that as well.
Look, y'all.
I will say this. I think Chris made a very compelling case. So at this point, I believe the score is 17.5 to 17.5.
Whoa.
And it will be decided during these final 30-ish days of the competition.
This is a big moment.
So so you're declining your point from yesterday, is what you're telling me.
And from earlier.
Respectfully.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we're gonna even it up. All right, this is per Wes's call.
I want to win fair and square.
We have a knockdown drag out. Well, I guess today would be 24. 24 more questions to ask between now and kickoff.
So I got a half point for the DJ thing?
Yes.
Wes is officially ruled on it?
Honestly, we could have spent a while going down that rabbit hole. I didn't expect it to be as controversial as it ended up becoming. I didn't know how many different places were going to have his name one way and other places the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Wes. I feel like it's a little bit of pity on your part for me. But I gratefully accept the DJ Swearinger half point because I'm convinced that I'm right.
I think, like Wes said, I think you made a very, very compelling case for yourself. All right, are we ready?
If he hadn't made a good case, then I wouldn't have given him the half point.
Yeah.
But he made a strong case, so it is what it is. And I just don't want to hear any excuses from Chris if I win this thing.
Did he have the strongest case in the history of Make Your Case?
I would actually, out of nowhere, yes, he did.
Well, Make Your Case is normally like an opinion.
Sure.
But this is like, it's not my opinion that his name is Diarlo. It's like, yeah, here it is.
I say, did you
it's in the papers.
You walked through the law school a couple times when you were at USC and pick up a few things? Because that was pretty well done.
I mean, I wanted to be an attorney, but I'm a sports writer instead. It's more fun.
Well, it's like I used to park next to the psych building and walk through there a lot when I was in school, and unfortunately none of that rubbed off on me. But
you're not a mentalist?
I'm not a mentalist. You got something from the law school at least.
All right, so we got, 32 days?
32 days.
Did y'all mention, since Brandon Bent. What was the question?
So the question was actually about, so Beamer has 33 career wins
Okay.
at South Carolina. How many of them were against ranked opponents?
Okay, got you.
And 7 was the correct answer. But yes, Brandon Bennett was a 33 of guys naming dudes. 32. Who have y'all got today?
Let me give one shout out real quick since we weren't here for 33.
Okay.
We got to shout out former Gamecock and current Oregon defensive coordinator Chris Hampton.
That's right.
Who wore number 33 at South Carolina.
Just got the big promotion this offseason.
That's right. Great dude. Sharp coach, obviously. Sharp player here. So we had to shout him out. Number 32.
Possible future national champion.
Could be.
Wes is very, when it comes time to, hey, and this will be closer to the season, I assume, when we get to, hey, who's your playoff team, who's your winner, I feel like Wes is going with Oregon.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Probably a good pick. But I won't spoil it. It's just my sense.
Okay.
All right, number 32. Guys naming dudes. Wes, A.J. Holloway, current. Got to mention him. Here's a couple. Bradley Dunn, former walk-on running back, earned a scholarship at Carolina from Hammond here in Columbia. Here's one for you, Wes. Reggie Bowens. How about that?
Good pull.
Thank you. You got any? You're about tapped out after that. I'm sure we're missing super obvious.
There's a pretty obvious one that's the topic of today's question.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Oh, boy. Let me ask y'all a question. Did Dacus Furman ever wear 32, or was he only 20? Was he a 2-jersey guy, or am I just making that up for some reason?
Oh, man. He 100. Yes, great pull. He wore 32. Yep. That's a good one,
But
Wes.
also number 20, right?
I don't know. I actually only remember him wearing 32.
Okay. All right. I don't know where I got 20.
Did Mo Kaba wear 32? I think Kaba was 32.
Yeah, Cabo was 32.
Okay. Our guy. Yeah. Really an obvious one. Okay. Unless Wes can think of it, hit us with it.
I'm surprised you guys didn't say Dante Robinson.
Oh, God. Yeah.
32.
Yep.
That is the topic of today's question.
Oh, boy.
All right. In Dante Robinson's career at South Carolina, he had 5 total interceptions. Only one of those was returned for a touchdown. Can you tell me what game he did that in?
Oh.
Dante Robinson from Athens, Georgia, Tyler.
Clark Central. I did not play for the legendary Billy Henderson. Henderson retired as he was coming in as a freshman in 07, I believe.
Georgia didn't want Dante Robinson?
Or not 07, 97. No, they did not offer him out of high school. In fact, he was. I was reading an online Athens article yesterday. Big Georgia fan, but at the time that was Jim Donnan as the head coach. Did not want to extend a scholarship to the kid right down the street.
Ended up being a good one. Okay. 5 picks, only 1 return for a touchdown.
Yep.
I don't know. I had a team popped in my head, and so I'm going with it. Tennessee. Don't know why. That's the team that popped in my head. Maybe at some point I've read about it, and it's in my brain. So I'm going Tennessee.
All right, Wes.
I just want to say I don't like you right now, Tyler. What years did he play at Carolina?
So he was only a starter his last 2 years in 02 and 03. And I will say those were the 2 years that all 5 of the interceptions came from.
Makes sense. What you got, Wes?
I got no idea. So I'm just going to go with my tried and true answer to all these questions when I have no idea, and say UAB.
Hot dang, UAB is the correct answer in 2003.
You got to be kidding me.
He is correct. I also double-checked with, because here's the thing. When you get into the early 2000s, stats and game logs and stuff like that are harder to find for some of these guys. I did check with Preston Thorne, and UAB is the only pick 6 he had in his career at South Carolina. Funny enough, between his career at Carolina and the NFL, only 2 total touchdowns in terms of like defensive scores. He had 1 pick 6 in the NFL in Houston and 1 at Carolina. Kind of surprising, right? You would think you would have taken a couple more to the house in the NFL.
I don't know. I'm leaving.
By the way,
Y'all do the rest of the show.
a lot of lore with this UAB game. This is the second time we brought it up.
I know.
Because
That game must have been weird.
This is the game that Preston got hurt in 2003, and also the game that Demetrius Summers popped off as well.
42-10 win for South Carolina. I'm aghast. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know how many more questions UAB can be the correct answer on, but it's been two so far.
I'm making a motion. Any question you come up with cannot reference the UAB game anymore.
There's nothing else I can pull from the 2003 UAB game.
I'm sure there's something. Apparently, it was a weird game. No. Please.
Just do you guys even remember much of this game?
No.
No shot.
Obscure one. Just kind of whatever.
I thought Wes was going to say, I thought you were going SEC and going like Kentucky or Vandy, but yeah, UAB. That's terrible. But you know what,
I don't
Wes?
think it was terrible at all.
Good. I'm sure you don't. Good karma for you, though. Given what you just did to open here, you actually deserve a point for your graciousness.
Well,
so.
and instead of it being a 3.5 point advantage, you're only up by 1 now. So
I know
he's still a tight race.
Might be regretting your decision now. You really could have opened it up.
Maybe so.
But good thing, no more UAB questions. No more UAB 2003 questions. No, actually, no more UAB questions. They're banned.
Well, I don't know how many times Carolina's played UAB over the years, but I will do my best to ensure that there are no more UAB-related questions for the next 23 days we're doing this.
I think they played 3 times.
Okay.
So, those are out.
Yeah,
judging by Chris's reaction to this, I am a little bit regretting taking those points away.
No, I'm a little salty. It's okay. That was a great pick. I'm giving full credit.
Yeah, full
credit.
That's an impressive pull. All right, 31 tomorrow. Who we got?
Number 31. Demetrius Summers is probably a pretty.
I could have asked another question about that UAB game tomorrow, but now I'm not allowed to.
I'm just kidding. You can, if you want to.
I will not. I promise.
Demetrius Summers is the one that really stands out to me. We'll come armed tomorrow.
Okay.
Maybe.
Right. Well, no more UAB related.
But I have
questions.
a feeling we might get a Demetrius Summers question.
Yeah, there's a strong possibility, but it won't be related to the 2003 UAB game, I promise. What are South Carolina's chances to make the college football playoff? There's an article on ESPN that outlines, it's not impossible. We'll discuss that up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, y'all, let's tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media, as we do here every day on the program. IntegratedMediaInc.com, 803-948-8327, the true one-stop shop for all of your home automation and all of your audio-visual needs. That's Michael, Nathan, and the team over at Integrated Media. They've been out to Wes's home. He was having some problems with his internet. They installed Ethernet throughout his home now. No more dead spots in the internet for GC Live, for streaming, for all the work that he has to do on his computer. For me, they've installed televisions in multiple rooms at my house, mounted them, recommended the very best, so I didn't have to worry about it. Also put all my old video game systems on a switcher, so when the kids or even the wife and I want to go play some SNES, NES, N64, Wii, whatever it is, just hook it right up, press a button, and it's good to go. No more of those pesky wires. IntegratedMediaInc.com. They can recommend the very best and source it and install it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Tyler West and Chris on your Tuesday here on the game. Again, 32 days away from South Carolina kicking off its season against Kent State. And here's hoping we can have a similar season to 2 years ago where by the time late November rolls around, we can actually be talking about this team in the college football playoff conversation. Yesterday, Heather Dinich of ESPN put together her list of 31 teams that can make the college football playoff. Now, a lot of this is based off of the analytics from ESPN, the various things like S&P Plus and playoff analytics. And for South Carolina, they do make the list. Number 30 with chance to make the playoff at 10.8%, chance to win the national title at 0.4%, but nevertheless, being featured on this list, one above Virginia Tech, who's in the final spot at 31. Now, again, guys, we got a lot of steps and things to have happen this year before you start entering those kind of conversations. But it is, I guess, nice to at least be thought of as one of those teams that can do that if this season goes well enough.
One of the things that I'm trying to think back on is, one of the things we heard before the 2024 season, which is a season that Carolina very nearly made the college football playoff, right? It was a conversation at the end of the year. It wasn't a crazy thought that South Carolina could make the playoff. They're very close. That's where you want to be. You want to either feel like you're in or you got a chance to be in. And one thing I've been reflecting on lately is, what did we hear leading up to all of these past several seasons? And one of the things that we got before 2024 was Wes and I got a lot of, hey, quietly, like, we think we're going to be pretty good. Like, if you talk to people around the program, you talk to people in that building, they weren't getting a lot of love. They'd just gone 5-7, but they thought, we're going to be pretty good. And they were. Last year, 2025, it wasn't like 2023. I thought, there were some concerns, particularly about leadership and everything Carolina had lost. The offense obviously ended up being not just worse, probably substantially worse than anybody thought. 2023, I think, thinking back preseason, there were some concerns about that team as well. The reason I bring that up is this year, a lot of people in the building and around that program feel like it's kind of that same vibe, like, we think we're going to be a good bit better. Now, ultimately, will they, won't they? I don't know. But to bring this, forward to what you're talking about, Tyler, here with the playoff, is this the year, we were talking about this earlier. You play a 9-game schedule and you play Clemson. For all intents and purposes, you're kind of from a talent standpoint, if you're South Carolina, you're basically playing the equivalent of 10 SEC games. So you really need to go into this season thinking about a buffer. If South Carolina or any other team theoretically could run the table, you're in, no problem, great. But you're probably not getting through unscathed. What is that line this year? Because you play those games, you're adding a conference game. You haven't expanded the playoff to, 24 teams yet, which seems like what SEC coaches want in exchange for adding that game. Is this the year that, you can lose 3 SEC games or 3 games and feel like, yeah, we're probably in? That's a question to me. And when you go up and down the schedule, it's a tough one for South Carolina. It's also maybe a little bit more manageable than other years, even though you are adding that game. Does it shake out a little bit more favorably to where you can go through and say, okay, even if South Carolina loses these 2 games or maybe these 3 games, if they can do that, they're in. And you can kind of see the path to that. To be clear, I'm not sitting here saying I think South Carolina is going 10-2, 9-3, 8-4, whatever. I don't really know yet. Haven't decided it. But if you can do that, if you can go, say, 9-3, is the committee putting you in this year? Maybe so. And so I do think it's interesting. They made it not a huge chance, obviously, when you're breaking down ESPN's analytics here, but a possibility. And really, that's where you want the conversation to be if you're South Carolina.
Well, I think somebody is going to come out of nowhere and be in the conversation of this thing, maybe multiple teams. So if you're South Carolina, you're saying, like, why not us? Why can't we be that team? And, guys, I think some of this or a lot of this, for me, just falls back on number 16. Which Lenore Sellers do we get this year? And is he going to be talked about in terms of being that Heisman level contender? And if so, does that not completely change the calculus on what South Carolina is as a team? Now, I think you look around the league, you look around the country, there's a lot of teams that feel very good about their quarterbacks. And I was listening to Josh Pate and his kind of return show this week, and dude, he listed like 25 quarterbacks that teams feel really good about, and it didn't mention Lenoris until the very end. It was like and I haven't even mentioned Lenoris Sellers type thing. So I think a lot of people have forgotten how good this kid is, how talented he is. We've got a new sponsor on Gamecock Central with one of the market-based apps where it's like live markets. And so I happened to be looking at it, and it's more like people-oriented. Like it's based fully on what people are placing their wagers at. And it had Lenoris Sellers 2% chance to win the Heisman, which, I know there's a lot of people in the running, and I know he shouldn't be a favorite right now, to be completely honest. But for that number to be 2% at this point, I think just speaks to how much everybody maybe outside of Columbia has forgotten about how good this kid is. So I think those two things right there, the South Carolina college football playoff push, are they in that maybe greater bubble of teams that could at least compete for the thing, is directly tied to what we see out of Lenoris Sellers this year.
And we saw Sellers play at his best on that 6-game winning streak at the end of 2024 that, put Carolina in the legitimate conversation when the playoff was being selected. Unfortunately, again, on the outside looking in. At what point during that stretch did we believe, like, okay, this team might actually be able to make a case for themselves to be in the playoff conversation?
24?
Yes, 24.
Well, you got to remember, South Carolina is sitting there 3-3 after that loss to Bama, and the vibes were, not great, because you're sitting there going, okay, you're 3-3, and next week you're going at Oklahoma, and then you got A&M at Vandy, Missouri, Wofford at Clemson. And so, you knew you had some challenging games in there, and you knew that, hey, you can't lose another game. So basically it's going to take winning out. Well, that's what ended up happening. So the first step was you beat Oklahoma 35-9. You were up 21-0 after about 30 seconds. And you got a bye week, and you got A&M. I would say it was after the A&M game. You have a huge fourth quarter. You win 44-20. Now you're saying, all right, go to Vandy, can win that one. The next two are definitely winnable. You got Missouri at home. You got Wofford. And can you go beat Clemson? And so I think after that A&M game, the Oklahoma game showed you, okay, this team actually has some juice. Maybe they're putting it together. The A&M game was confirmation that, yeah, this team is actually really good. Have they turned the corner? And that kind of illustrated it, and then they went on that big run. So by the time Lenoris Sellers, has the 3rd and 16 touchdown run, and D. Knight intercepts that pass, and you win that game 17-14, you're sitting there going, there's an opportunity. A lot of Gamecock fans felt they should be in. Shane Beamer felt they should be in. But you're kind of going, this is actually a possibility. But I'd kind of point to that A&M game the first Saturday of November as they've got a chance here.
Yeah, I think it was being discussed, but at the same time, I think at that point it was also more of a local, you were talking about it, but some people would probably push back and be like, okay, that's a little crazy to be talking about this. I think because at the time, you're still talking about, people, it would have been a couple months ago at that point, but you're still remembering that you squeaked past Old Dominion and you got pretty much blown out by Ole Miss. By the time you beat A&M, that game would have been just 3 or 4 weeks prior. So I think people were starting to realize at that time, okay, this team is pretty good. They, now have a couple of nice wins, but can they show the consistency to go win out was probably seen as more of like a complete just homer take at the time. And, you got to remember Vanderbilt at the time was starting to hit a stride as well. Like going to Nashville was not seen as the given that it typically is at that point that year either. So, yeah, I think it was maybe discussed, but it was probably a little bit more of a fringe. Like, okay, yeah, right. Like they're actually going to win out after starting 3-3, and then lo and behold, until the bowl game, they go out there and do it.
Well, 2024 was a special season for Carolina and one that had a lot of experience going into the year, which is something that Chris Clark pointed out the other day on Gamecock Central. We'll dive into what side of the ball experience matters the most on coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on your Tuesday here on the game.
All right, it's lunchtime here on the game, about 11:30, and so that means you know who we're going to recommend. Our friends over at Firehouse Subs, firehousesubs.com, or you can download the Firehouse Subs app. That's what Wes, Tyler, and I do when we're ready to order Firehouse Subs. Locations all around the Midlands, so wherever you are, there's a Firehouse Subs close to you. You can just download the app, join the rewards program, get an immediate discount, is what our friends at Firehouse Subs say. You can also earn some rewards towards future purchases. A portion of every purchase is going to go to, as always, support first responders. Check out the new Smokin' Honey Melts, flame-seared steak or grilled chicken breast, combined with a duo of red and green peppers, caramelized onions, melted provolone, chipotle honey dressing, and mayo, all on a toasted sub roll. Protein-packed and drizzled with the new honey chipotle sauce. That's firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app. Lunch, dinner, catering. Find your go-to sub at Firehouse Subs today.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Tyler, West, and Chris with you here on your Tuesday on the Game, getting you ever closer to the start of the college football season. 32 days for South Carolina and Kent State coming up on September the 5th. And we've been breaking down this team as many ways as possible over these past handful of weeks, getting you set for the start of the year. And, you know, we just in the last segment there, we're talking about the experience or how good 2024 was. And one of the big reasons was how experienced that team was. And the other day, we referenced this on the show, comparing from Chris's article, the experience of that 2024 roster to the experience of the 2026 roster. And I took that a step further yesterday on the show when you guys weren't here, where I took the experience of this year's roster in terms of total snaps coming in and compared it to Indiana last year, who, again, is the standard in college football of, being able to turn things around and have a great season, mainly with the experience on the team that they had. I thought it was pretty interesting because a lot of the numbers, particularly when it comes to offense, pretty close. So when you look at this year's team, as Chris pointed out on Gamecock Central, they have on offense a total of 13,656 career snaps coming into the year. The Indiana team from a year ago had 13,909, so pretty close there. Defensively, this year's team comes in with 9,449 snaps. Last year's Indiana team with 11,012. So a little bit of a difference there, but still not crazy far off. And, just because you have similar numbers to Indiana doesn't mean you're going to go out there and do what they did. But as Beamer talked about last week or 2 weeks ago now at Media Days, they're the model of what experience is in college football, which most coaches will say is the biggest factor in winning these days. Not necessarily having all the 4- and 5-star recruits, though that does help. And again, you see a difference in the offense and defense. When you hear those numbers, what stands out to you? And is there a side of the football you prefer to have more experience on going into a year?
Well, first, Tyler, what did you say the defensive number from Indiana was?
Last year is 11,012. Okay. And I followed your same model in terms of how you broke it down by position, went with all their starters, the guys that played the most snaps, those respective spots, to try and get as accurate of a number based on what we're comparing it to for South Carolina.
South Carolina's 2024 defense, 14,421 snaps. So here's the interesting thing, guys. Going into last year, the question was a little bit more there were questions about, okay, what's going to be different about the way Mike Shula calls the game versus the way Dow Loggins called the game? But actually, if y'all remember, the questions were a little bit more around the defense because of what they lost, right? Tonka, Boogie, Jules, TJ Sanders, Kennard, D. Knight, Bam Scott, Nicky. They lost a ton. Now, they still brought back some experience, but the questions are more on the defensive side of the ball in terms of what they lost. Well, fast forward, defense was actually pretty solid still last year, and it was the offense that was, if you're kind of breaking this down by what side of the ball, what facet of the game was the biggest issue, it was, of course, the offense. And so, this year, I think people generally feel pretty good about the defense. Yeah, they got some questions, but you kind of seen enough under Clayton White where you're like, yeah, looks pretty good. They've added some pieces. They brought some guys back. And you feel like with Kendall Briles, what he's going to bring, even if this is a young offense, you feel pretty solid about their chances to improve. That's a really tough question to actually get to the heart of your question and try to answer it. What's more important? Is it experience on offense, experience on defense? I think there's some caveats in there. I think regardless, you've got to have great quarterback play. We're all talking about Indiana. They have done a phenomenal job. Kurt Cignetti has. It's almost gone a little bit undervalued that they had the Heisman Trophy winner and #1 NFL draft pick. They had a lot of dudes. They had a lot of experience. But that quarterback Fernando Mendoza was so important to what they did. And obviously the awards he won and his draft position really kind of proved that out. I think if you made me pick, which side of the ball would you rather be experienced? I'm probably going defense. I think you can make a good argument for either. And I think you want to be experienced as possible all around, as much as you can. You look at offense, you want to be experienced on the O-line. You don't want to have a bunch of youngsters with little experience playing up front. And to take it a little step further, mentioned Indiana. Shane Beamer mentioned it. Birdies with Beamer, the event last week. He had studied all 3 of the past 3 national champions, and they all had a ton of experience. And so that was a priority this offseason.
Yeah, I think I'm probably actually going offense. Now, typically, you would, over the years, probably say quarterback if you're going to zone in on one particular position. But, man, these guys these days are built a little bit different. The offensive schemes are a little bit easier, I think, for guys just to slide into. So, I mean, I feel like you can go win at least at a pretty high clip if you have a quarterback that has that baseline talent. Like, that's the position you're looking for upside. You're looking for just difference makers. But if I'm going to zoom in on one position that I absolutely have to have experience, I'm probably going O-line. Like, I think if you recruit at a high level, even on the defensive line, especially at like the edge spot, maybe defensive tackle is a little bit different, but the edge spot, if you have a high level, like freak athlete at that position, then that guy can go ahead and play pretty well. I think it's pretty hard to find, especially when you're talking about 5 offensive linemen, if they're all young, that can go play well at the SEC level. So if I had to just pick one spot that I want to be old, like if the rest of my team had to be freshmen and sophomores and I got one position that I can make all seniors, I'm probably going with the offensive line just because those guys typically aren't quite as athletic as your defensive linemen. They're going to be more based a little bit, yes, on size and power and feet and all that, but there's like an intellect standpoint to that. There's a football IQ. There's a experience aspect to that I think is very, very important. So, yeah, I lean O-line on that one.
And for reference, since you did bring up O-line, because I calculated this up yesterday as well, Carolina going into this year does have more snaps on the offensive line than what Indiana did have going into their season last year. Again, not a guarantee, but that was a really good offensive line last year, led by Pat Coogan at the center, who had been at Indiana forever. So that is one area when you kind of compare apples to apples that Carolina is going in with a significant amount of experience, which again we're hoping translates to a lot of success.
Yeah, I agree with you, Wes. I mean, quarterback is like if you don't have a high-level quarterback, it's going to be hard to win a championship. You don't scrap your way to a championship, and generally when you look back at the teams that have won titles, yeah, they're talented everywhere, but they have a quarterback who can make a difference for you. And I think, that's something we've seen from Lenore Sellers is you're not just guessing or kind of making it up or saying, one day if Lenore Sellers could reach his potential one day, like he was one of the most dominant players in the country the back half of 2024. We've actually seen it. You're not just saying, can this guy be good? The conversation is more, can he get back to that level? And can he build on it even? And as a third-year starter, there's some reasons to think that maybe he can, especially with an offense that we think going to better suit his skill set. So, yeah, you can make a good argument for offense, defense. You can break it down positionally. I absolutely think that if you're looking at, hey, where do you want to be the most experienced? I think you go quarterback, and then I think you go lines of scrimmage. You go the O-line on offense, and we've seen, 2024, South Carolina, what was their strength? It was up front, defensive line with Kennard, who was a fifth-year senior, with all those seniors at D-tackle, a super freshman in Stewart. This year, South Carolina feels like, and Shane Beamer's mentioned this publicly, they feel like that they have guys on the defensive line of scrimmage who are kind of similar in terms of the depth and talent that they have.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, we're hoping that experience translates to more success this upcoming year. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. It is the Garnet Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, y'all. I want to tell you about something that has really benefited me in the past as well as Wes, and that is the SC Education Lottery. You can learn more about them, of course, online. But did you know, since 2002, over $9.4 billion in lottery proceeds have been appropriated to benefit educational causes in the state of South Carolina. Not only scholarships, but school buses and technology initiatives. Playing for fun is a win for education. More than 2.8 million lottery-funded scholarships have been appropriated in the state of South Carolina, such as the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellows scholarships. And as I mentioned earlier, when I went to the University of South Carolina, I was a beneficiary of the Life Scholarship. Again, since 2002, over $9.4 billion in lottery proceeds appropriated, 2.8 million lottery-funded scholarships, Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellows scholarships through the SC Education Lottery.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell wrap up the hour as Chris had to scoot out a little bit early. Of course, we're 32 days away from Gamecock football getting the season started, but we're also less than 1 day removed, not even 24 hours removed, from the end of the MLB trade deadline. Wes, you and I are both Braves fans, and to say the Braves contingent is not thrilled with how things went down over the weekend and what they brought in to set themselves up for the postseason might be an understatement. This is probably the least satisfied a team leading a division can be right now with the lack of movement the Braves had when it came to big name gets in the trade.
Tyler. Dude, I feel like you've now known me long enough. Like I'm not one of these people, man. I'm not a freak out person. I'm not a negative person. They're first in the division.
Mm-hmm.
They have a great organization, but man, that was such a buzzkill of a day. I found myself the couple of days leading up to the deadline, like actually feeling a little bit like a kid at Christmas. Like, man, who are they going to bring on? You know, you kind of read between the lines with some of these guys, like Mark Bowman tweeting out stuff like, yeah, I fully expect the Braves to add a couple of starting pitchers and, you know, stuff that if I was in his seat covering the team, I would be saying because I've heard some things like there's confidence that this is going to happen. And I'm not in the fire Alex Anthopoulos level of rage because they are still first in the division. And, you know, other than last year, like they have been phenomenal in his tenure and they do have a World Series, but dude, it was just such a buzzkill not to go get at least one arm that you feel like, all right, this guy has a chance to go be a number 2 playoff starter. It didn't have to be Scooble. If you could have gone out and just give me somebody with a chance to go up against the Dodgers, because here's the thing about baseball, man. You can have the absolute best team, and we can all agree you're the best team. That doesn't mean you're going to win the World Series. So I just wanted to see the Braves take a couple steps to give themselves a better fighting chance to go beat the Dodgers, because it is not written in stone that the Dodgers are going to win this thing, just because that is baseball, man. It's such a luck sport, but you have to give yourself a chance as well. And I understand playing the long game. I understand not wanting to throw away the future, but man, that just no other way to put it. That stunk.
Yeah, and you have a great one in Chris Sale, obviously, who would lead any of your playoff rotations. But past that, and yeah, can Bryce Elder or Martin Perez go out there and have a really good game? Sure, but the consistency is not there the same way you have with Chris Sale, which, again, like you said, you don't have to go out there and land Scooble necessarily to be your number 2 guy, but something with a little more pizzazz getting out of the trade deadline is something that Braves fans are hoping for. You get, is it Male or Male from, how do you pronounce his last name, from San Francisco, one of the others, who's already dealt with an injury this year, didn't have a great last outing with San Francisco over the weekend. He'll be in your starting rotation, but he's not somebody that elicits a lot of confidence necessarily in that rotation, which, again, is what Braves fans hope for, because, again, you're fighting an uphill battle if you did end up going up against the Dodgers in the divisional round or whatever it may be, because, again, they're going to have the best rotation. Again, doesn't guarantee that they're going to win, but you're going to have to bring good horses to the table to be able to fight with them, and right now the Braves don't quite stack up with that.
Well, Tyler, a lot of these pitchers they've been counting on to come back from injury throughout the year have come back and then have gotten injured again, too. Yes. So I'm sitting there like, to me, are they counting on Swellenbach getting back? Like, he is an upper-level arm when he is right, but you can't – I mean, they're talking about he may be back in September, and you're going to count on him to make a playoff start. Strider, it seems like, is out for the year. Waldrop, they were really high on last year. He came back, and then it's hurt again. Like, you're just counting on guys that have not been, 100%, and that's just tough, man. So as much as those fans pack out Truist and support this team, it's a little bit just disheartening to see them not go out and do something just as a nod to your fans, because you also had Profar money to play with as well, because that's right. Not on the books right now.
That's right. You had a little extra cash to spend because you're not having to pay him for his suspension, and again, they didn't use the full allotment of that.
No, just very disappointing, man. That's all I can say about it. I'll still be watching tonight.
Sure.
I'll still be pulling, but it stinks.
Well, it's and I guess all of baseball's feeling this right now, where you're kind of going towards the postseason, where, again, the Braves still got a really good chance to win the division, where you're like, man, are we just all playing for second place at this point because of how good the Dodgers are, which, again, doesn't guarantee you're going to win. Baseball's a funny game, but you just don't feel like there are many teams that stack up to what they have right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, man. I do not believe – yes, the Dodgers have the best team, but I do not believe in baseball that guarantees you a World Series. If the Braves had added a couple of key pieces, like, I'm not saying if they're at full go, I'm not saying they couldn't give the Dodgers a run. So,
right.
They should have beat the Dodgers during the shortened year, in my opinion.
Right.
So then we're talking about 2 straight World Series. So anyway, yeah, Braves Twitter, go nuts. I'm with you. I understand you being mad.
They're back in action tonight at home. We'll see what the crowd's like against the Marlins tonight at 7:15. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Coming up next, halftime show on your Tuesday on the Game.